Well, good morning. Are we having fun yet? It's very different. The colors are it's a much darker room today with all these overcoats on. And we have two very large furnaces that heat this room, and one of them has completely quit. And the other one is working somewhat. I put the heat on yesterday to start at 3 o'clock this morning. So this is how warm it gets with one furnace limping and the other one off in a few hours. So we're going to get to practice with a little coolness, a little crispness. We could imagine that we're in training in northern Hokkaido in Japan, where the really hard part was the dip in the cold plunge this morning that's required for everyone. And then I have a friend who trained like that in Japan for several years, and he wore sometimes as many as 10 robes. Ruth Denison also did some very cold training in Japan. But I will talk about it in the guided meditation about how to work with a circumstance that's cool like this, or painful in any way. So who's new today? I see some new faces. Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, interesting. There's always such significant stories behind how people show up. I hope that this turns out to be a useful morning for you. And my real hope is that this is a discovery of a path that will transform your life. And that was the case for me when I ran into Buddhism back in North India in 1971. Just turned my life in 180-degree corner. So please do one of two things. Remain silent and internal if that's what's right for you, or turn to a neighbor and introduce yourself and speak of one thing you're grateful for in your life this morning. Just a little connection. You wore your... Bring him in. Refuge. I'm going to be returning today to speaking about the Four Noble or the Four Ennobling Truths. And my own experience of Dharma practice is that it gets simpler and simpler and simpler. And all the complicated words and theories are becoming, it's like blah, 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 blah. Because what is the practice? It's being awake. It's being awake right now. It's not, I believe in something. I was listening to a talk by Ajahn Sumedho, and he lived in London for a long time, and they had these interfaith dialogue things that happened. And one of his observations was that Buddhism was very unlike Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, the big three tribal religions from the Middle East, which are theistic. And they begin at the top. I believe in. And the Buddhist teachings start right at the bottom. I'm suffering. Suffering is real. There is suffering. Not that everything's suffering, but there is suffering. And what shall I do about that? Because the responsibility is mine. So the refuges it's the refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And it has some historical, we can have refuge in the story of the Buddha and all that kind of thing. But fundamentally it's I take refuge in this moment that knows. For instance, please become aware that you're seeing. That's it. Awareness. Become aware, please, of your buttocks touching the chair, the cushion, the floor. Present. So to take refuge in that, there's something we can always do, no matter what's happening, no matter how challenged our life is, or whether in one of those beautiful peaks of bliss, when everything's going our way, aware of that. And then with that, we discover the Dharma. And central in the understanding of the Dharma is that everything is impermanent. Right? Everything on this side of the Great Flash, Big Bang, 14.2 billion years, they say, there's been nothing but change. Right? Planets, solar systems, galaxies. And why would it not be exactly the same for us and our lives and our children's lives and our political structures and everything is in constant utter change. And we create this tremendous suffering because we get ideas of how things should be, and then they don't turn out like we wanted, or they turn out like we wanted and then they fade away. So we suffer mightily. So the refuge in Buddha, Dharma, the teachings and the way it actually is, and the Sangha is this moment of community that we have right here. And also that we can get some support from the fact that humans have done this for a long time and had it work for them. Suffer less. So please join in these chants. I know I had a Catholic childhood, and my relationship with the Latin, which was there, I thought it was magic. Actually, it was, it's kind of funny, but I left that rather early. At least I left the Catholic schools because I was being abused. I was being physically abused by the Christian brothers who were giving me the strap because I got snow on my back. Things were not so good at that point in that tradition. But in the missal, in the like, it wasn't the Bible, but it was the book that told you what was happening in the ceremony. It said, God bless N our Pope and N our Bishop. And I would repeat, God bless N our Pope and N our... It never occurred to me that meant the name of our bishop. You were supposed to personalize it to... So that was it was years later that I realized, I was doing it wrong. And I thought I was doing it right. It's no wonder I suffered so much. So This is not a magic chant. This is a modern rendition of a reminder of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Another few words I picked up from that talk from Achan Sumedho, who is the senior Thai forest tradition monk, Westerner, is that meditation is a vacation of the heart. A vacation of the heart-mind. Chitta includes the whole of our experience. So what is it that we do and want on vacation? We want to stop working. We want to stop being stressed. We want to be able to rest. So why not, for the next 40 minutes or the rest of our lives, why not assume a position of acceptance? This moment is like this. It's as it is. It's really a challenging thing for all of us, or most of us who live in modernity, which is pretty much all over the world now, but it's particularly a challenge for Americans, Western Europeans, because we're supposed to get somewhere, right? We're supposed to compete. And there is a delusional fantasy that we can become anything. Right? You can come from poor, uneducated, hungry, poverty, low class, and become anything. And that's generally not really true, right? There's less upward mobility in the United States right now than there is in England or most of the west of Europe. Strange to believe. But we have this fantasy, I can make anything happen. If I get sick, it's my fault because I made it happen. And it's not true. But there is freedom to be had through this recognition of I'll be talking today in my talk at the end, the Four Noble Truths, the Four Ennobling Truths. But to recognize, first off, there is suffering. There's this deep tendency to want something to be different. Right? I'm sitting here, it should be warmer. You could suffer a lot from this coolness. I grew up in Montreal. 20, 30 below was not unusual. We walked to school 20 or 30 below. I camped out at almost 50 below one time in Yellowstone. But we had the right gear and lots of food. What I think is cold is all those folks that are sleeping out on the streets of Portland these days. That's cold. So we're in the relative luxury of almost 60 degrees in this room, lots of clothing. But let's take a moment to become aware of the experience of coolness. Where in the body do you feel it? Hands, face. Where is your body really nice and toasty warm right now? Chest, armpits, abdomen. And we make a perceptual error when we say, I am cold. We create an I that's cold. It would be much more true, accurate to say, there are some cold sensations here. There's some here, there's some there. And depending upon our relationship with cold, there could be disliking. What could be sort of exciting, or rather neutral. So within this body that sits here, to what shall we attend? We could just choose to abide, for instance, in the coolness or coldness in the hands. Be present for that. Or we could take up mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing. And along with that, we could contemplate is there some sense, some conditioned sense I have that I should get rid of the wandering mind, or I should control my breathing in some particular way? Or this should be a transcendental experience. Last time I meditated, I was so high, I want that again. Or perhaps it's disliking. I wish he'd stop talking. I wish I didn't have this pain in my back. This moment is like this. So it might be helpful to use the breath, chest and abdomen rising and falling as a home base. But realize that's a strategy you're undertaking in this moment. It's probable that that which you take to be your mind has done a fair bit of wandering already. If your belief about meditation is that you have to get rid of that wandering, you'll be suffering, because internally it would be, I am failing. If instead you became really curious, contemplative, so it's wandering a lot. That's true. That's the Dharma right now. I can still hold as an intention coming home to breathing, and do that whenever I can. But this is a vacation of the heart. So I'm not going to struggle with it. There were billions of years before there was our little yellow sun and the earth. There are vast eons of time since life began on the earth. Vast eons before there were humans. And then, completely mysteriously, a sperm and an egg came together, and that which is destined to become you and me was formed. We were born and then went through somebody training and experience ourselves as somehow separate from everything. It's that separateness that we study in meditation. Is there anything that lasts in your experience? It's one thing to have an opinion or an attitude, an ideology, but to examine all those, we discover they too are ephemeral. And what it comes down to is this moment with awareness. A coming and going of the breath. So when you can, why not abide in the actual life of breathing in and out sensations? Notice when awareness wakes up in the middle of a wandering mind. Come home to yourself. Other than being here in the present moment, why not abandon any plan of getting somewhere or achieving something? It's a vacation of the heart. Phew, it's okay to just be here. Please be awake to the nature of your experience, of the experience of this living process in this moment. Content or discontent, wanting something to be different or very accepting. Quietly tranquil, attending to the breath coming and going. Or maybe oscillating into the hindrances of desire and aversion, restlessness, sloth and torpor, doubt. Drifting into emotions, overwhelmed by emotions. This moment is like this. By definition and by practice, stopping to sit like this frees us from a great deal of needing to achieve, to solve the problem, to get the task done. We get to just be for a while. And it's so helpful not to make meditation drudgery, frustration, the task. Sitting down for the vacation of the heart. I don't have to text anyone or email anyone or Snapchat anyone or plan anything. I can actually stop here, now. Impatience may arise, discomfort may arise. Neither of them are emergencies. They're just things that happen to human beings. They're wonderfully educational because we can notice how reactive the mind can be sometimes. It can become resistant or resentful or frightened. And all those experiences are subject to observation, contemplation. Is this discomfort me? Is this impatience me? Is this pleasant state me? Each breath manifests the paradigm of the universe, coming into being out of nowhere, dancing for a little while, disappearing. And please now allow awareness to open in the feet, what you call the feet, and the ankles, the toes, and the shins and the calves. Notice where the regions of coolness are, the warmth, comfort, discomfort. Notice the aliveness, which is the thighs, the interior and the exterior, the top, the back, front, back. The life of the genitals and the perineum, the anus. All that life that resides in the cradle of the pelvis, in the abdomen. Sensations, not images. The buttocks pressing down, the pelvis, the sacrum, the back with its great spine, the pubic bone, and then the abdomen again, and the solar plexus and the chest. fingers and hands, forearms, elbows, upper arms. The neck, and the jaw, and the chin, the teeth, and the tongue, and the lips. Press your lips together a little bit. Quite amazing how we can do that. The cheeks, and the forehead, and the eyes, scalp. Ears, top of the head. And the eyes. The eyes. Feel them, know them. And now observing the intention in mind, prompted intention. If you let the eyes open, or you open them, it takes effort actually. See what happens. Objects appear, seeing. 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 In a very famous teaching of the Buddha, he said, "In the seeing only the seen, no seer is to be found." What could that possibly mean? Maybe it's really true that this sense of self, I, me, mine, really is a delusion. Imagine that. What a relief. Seeing and knowing it. Hello to those of you joining us on the internet. I imagine you're a little warmer than we are. Especially those of you that live in warm places, sunny places, which I don't resent much at all. Is there one of those yellow printed sheets close by? Does anybody have one up front here? Could you bring me that, the one, the handout from this morning? A great efficiency device. This is the Sunday bulletin. You remember that? They were always folded like this, though, when I was a kid. There's a lot of great things coming up. I just wanted to highlight one or two of them. Saturday, February 9th. February 2nd, there's an all-day, every first Sunday of the month, there's an all-day retreat now. Saturday, thank you. And then other Saturdays sometimes, Mary Stankiewicz from LA is coming to teach a day-long retreat. And then on the, where is it here, the Richard Lang one. Where is it? Can't find it. The 16th? There it is, duh. Richard Lang, a dear friend of mine, and he's come, this is his third time. He's coming from London, outside London, to teach a one-day retreat here. And it's a long retreat. It starts at 9 in the morning and goes to 9 at night. And it's not meditation in the way that we're doing it here. There's all these practices he does of becoming headless. He teaches the headless way of be aware now, be here now. And it's quite potent. So the morning will be that, and then there'll be a talking, potluck, and then the afternoon will be more exercises, and then another potluck, and then in the evening he leads us in a 5 rhythms dance from a headless position, which is really quite remarkable. So I invite you to come and participate in that. Unfortunately, you can't just come to the dance. You have to eat your tofu first, and then you get to have the dessert, because of course then one wouldn't be really prepared for the dance. All right, there's a variety of different sits here, PIMC, different evenings, and I want to say a little word about Dana. Dana. The foundation of our spiritual lives rests in 3 legs. One is moral and ethical behavior. Because if we're treating ourselves and others poorly, we get anxious. And therefore, when we come to meditate, we don't get to have a vacation of the heart. We get to have a tight, frightened, challenged time. And then the third one, so there's moral and ethical behavior, training the mind, training the heart mind, which we do here in spades. And then the third is generosity, the practice of giving. And if we picked only one of those 3, any one of the 3 will transform our lives. And so the Buddha said that if you understood the value of generosity, you would never let a single meal pass unshared. And the rationale of that is that we have the attitude, and this is a very simple, elegant way to teach with this. You see this pen? It's mine. And I'm going to fight you for it if I have to. Right? I'll pass laws so that you can't get at it because it's mine, and so on. Or I could realize it's not mine because nothing is mine. Right? There's a Sufi, is it Rumi? Yeah. Inside the great mystery that is, we never really own anything. So what is this strange competition we feel then before we go, one at a time, through the same gate? We spend a lot of time and energy building borders and defending things, and it's such a relief when the more that we realize, I can't hold on to anything anyway, so this is common property. Let's share it. And that's the underpinning of PIMC, that's the underpinning of these teachings. To give in such a way, to give for the purpose of helping ourselves relinquish attachment. And in fact, could mention this. We have over here this treasure chest, which receives so much stuff. This community is just becoming incredibly generous with it. It's for the Transition Project, for people who are moving off the streets into housing. And anything is very helpful, anything about household clothing. And if you bring it, it will get transported there and do a lot of good. And there's the delight. And when you give, pause and give consciously. It's like, yes, this is and take delight in there's a word, it's anumodana. It's a blessing you receive when you give in Thailand. It's anumodana. And it translates something like this. May you take delight in this moment of giving, now and whenever you reflect upon it in the future. So the intention is to reflect on our goodness. Imagine that. You can take that on as a practice when you go to bed at night. Always reflect on 2 or 3 beautiful things you did during the day, 2 or 3 acts of kindness. And the purpose of that is that when you're on your deathbed, what comes to mind is not, oh, I'm such a... That's a bad habit. But comes to mind is, whoa, I have led a lifetime in which I became more and more generous. And from that, look at who I get to relate to. Right? Look at who my friends are. Not mine, but yours, I mean. So PIMC is dependent upon your generosity. There's a monk's bowl. It was my monk's bowl back in Burma in '78, which would happily receive any donations. As we talk about this, there's a worldview difference here. This is the generosity model versus the fee-for-service model. And so there's a lot of learning to do. And one way to think about it is, if we figured this out recently on the board, if everyone in this community, except those who couldn't, but if everyone gave $15 per time they came here, like going to a yoga class, we would be rolling in money. We'd be able to do all the projects. We'd be able to move. I'd be able to move on into my senior teacher role, and we'd be able to have someone come in and do the administration. The place would just run like a clock for that little. But we don't think of it. So I invite you, if this is where you do your mental yoga and it inspires you, think about using the bowl or going online and making a monthly the Stewardship Circle donation. Or when you get that really big inheritance from Uncle John, or win the lottery, or so on. Funny. So, all that said, I think I'm going to pause. Would you like to move people around? Yeah?
May I say something?
Yes. Please. Yes. Say your name first.
Does it work? Good morning, Sangha. My name is Bryce. And I have a quick announcement. There's an exciting thing happening in Portland. There's a group called The Team in New York City that is pairing with a group called Boom Arts in Portland. And they are creating a choir moment. And they are looking for people who want to sing, basically of any underrepresented community. So any racial minority or the queer trans community, anyone. And I want to read a little blurb of what they're doing because it's better than me trying to paraphrase. Join a multi-generational ensemble to prepare and perform new arrangements of iconic protest songs. Songs that have celebrated and questioned what it means to be an American throughout our country's past and present. It's going to be at the Old Church, and it is called Primer for a Failed Superpower. Let me know. So if you're curious about this, or if you, and we're especially looking for teenagers. That is kind of the group that is least full right now. So 16 to 19-ish.
When-ish?
And so, right.
When?
To your question. So this is all happening in May, but there'll be auditions and so on ahead of time. So if you're interested, there's a flyer with everything. Let me know afterward, or maybe let Kirsten know. She has her information, and we will patch through the electrical. And it's an amazing thing. Thank you.
Ready?
Okay, here we are standing. Let's just rock back and forth, but stay up on your toes for a second or two, and then try staying up on your heels for a second or two. So we have this intention, but there's conditions that have to be met throughout the whole body to fulfill the intention. The longer you stay, more energy you're creating in your balance system. Okay, let's rub our hands together. Now we've become heat exchangers. So, send it out to all the rest of the people in the room. And again, just everything changes. You begin at one temperature, and we're all tending towards the same temperature in some mysterious way. Okay. Relax the arms and get in touch with your feet again on the floor, and somewhere down there, several thousand miles, there's a tremendous amount of heat. And we're sharing with that heat. It's very subtle. You got to really get quiet in the mind. So let's lift the shoulders and breathe in. And hold it for a second, and then release. And lift the shoulders. Release. Squeeze the hands and scrunch up the face. And release. Again, squeeze. Things change. What is experienced as coolness changes with intention and conditions in the body. We are heat exchangers. So what I was thinking was that we would do Shibashi too, because it's a little more, it's deeper breathing and a little more active. So get our feet hip width apart and sink, and then just rise and press out. So we're just opening the shoulders and see if there's any difference in the temperature up here from the temperature down here. I had a class at the Native American Center on a Monday morning after their furnace had gone out over the weekend. And the furnace got started, and when we reached up, we could feel a little bit of heat. But when we came down, it was really cold. It was just that first layer. Okay, now bring your hands together and come up. And then keep your hands together and go down, breathing in as you come up, like you're sitting on a stool, and then coming up. Now we're going to step to the right and turn our heads to the left, and then back off and lift the toe, and just gently reach. But feel the chest relax and open with this counter reach. Part of you is reaching forward, part of you is reaching backward, and that friction is heating up your rib cage, I hope. And then we come back to the other side. As we stretch left, we look right. Relax the neck, relax the shoulders. But there's lots of friction going on in the collarbone, and the shoulders, and ribs, and spine. If you rub two sticks together, you can get a fire, right? Okay. Then we're going to take our hands and rub them together again. And then take that fire and take it down the right side. Rub your hands together. Take that fire down the left side. Now, just press to the left, press to the right. This is called casting the nets. We're just throwing the nets off the side of the boat. But relax the shoulders. Each side of the rib cage gets extended a little bit, so we make sure there's air going into all the little nooks and crannies. Now, how am I going to do this? Okay, I'm going to do it over here. So, we're going to turn our arms in a circle, right? But then we're going to point left and bring our right foot back and turn our arms in the other direction, and then I don't hear anybody falling over, so I guess you haven't pushed anybody over. Aware of your neighbor and your foot and the ends of your finger. And once more. Now, we're going to just balance left and stretch the hamstring on the right. How's your balance? And then step down. How's your balance? Okay, open the arms again, step back, and this is the crane bowing to the moon. It's kind of a cold image. I couldn't think of a warmer one. Maybe the blood moon. Nice warm moon up there. And once more. So that's the first half of the Shibashi 2. The middle movement is just riding the relaxed hands up the body, pressing forward, and sinking, and maybe sitting on a stool a little lower, and then and that's the graceful way of doing it. But you can also be more energetic and what's it called? The thing that raises the sail on a sailboat. It's a winch, but there's another word for it. Anyway, what's the word? I can't remember. It starts with an M, I think. But my brain is 73 years old, so you don't ever trust it. Anyway. But ordinarily when I'm teaching mindfulness and turning inward and calming down, then I just let the arms just float and gently press and come down. But it's not usually 56 degrees. I hope everybody's breathing a little deeper. All right. Another announcement on the sheet is that I'm not going to have my usual Qigong workshop on the third Saturday, so I'm going to do it on the fourth Sunday. So on February 24th, after snacks, about 1:30 or so, we'll have opportunity to practice these Qigong movements and have some time to sit, and hopefully the furnace will be operating. Let's open the arms. Now we got so many things scheduled. In the first 2 months of the year, I didn't get a chance to do the Qigong. I thought, I want to do that. How could I fit it in? So Sunday afternoon, the 24th. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's there. Good. Hello, everyone. I'm Kirsten. I'm the volunteer coordinator. And I just want to say a couple words about volunteers. As Robert was kind of talking about Donna and everything, another beautiful way to give of your heart and your time is to be a volunteer here. Just curious, raise your hand if you're a volunteer. There's a lot of us. Look at that. So many people help this place run. There's so many ways to help out. One of the things, I want to say, first of all, last couple weeks, so many people have stepped up into hospitality. Thank you so much. We still need like 2 or 3 people, like somebody with one of the cleaning up slots is needed, one more setup slot, and then we really could use maybe one more regular AV volunteer. We've got a good little group going, but it's always good to have we try to have them do like 1 slot a month, but if we have 5 people, then it's extra safe that we're always going to have somebody. So if you're interested in that, come talk to me or Paul. Paul, wave at the people. There's Paul, and we'll get you hooked up with that. So, and any other things that you want to contribute, if you have a talent or a skill and you're wanting to get involved, come talk to me, and we'll figure out how to get you plugged in. Thanks, everyone.
I woke up at 2:30 this morning feeling completely rested and alert. And it was utterly clear to me what I was going to say today. And then it kind of drifted away. Frustrating. But it's still enough there that what drifted away was that clarity that came out of the dream life. And the intuition, I guess, is where it comes from. And it has to do with this. This problem that we have of creating enemies, of becoming enamored of our ideas and creating worldviews out of them, and then creating the other, And then if we're living in a time like ours, we then have various media and different ways we communicate with each other, and then we create opposing teams, and then we go to war with each other. And it's so easy, and maybe inevitable, maybe it's part of our human structure, to believe that we're right. We're right and the other person or persons or other party or whatever is wrong. And one of my hesitancies is bugging me. I've been funny the things that pop up. I became a citizen back when Ronald Reagan was running for president. And it wasn't even so much because of Ronald Reagan, it was because of Lon Mabon. How many of you remember Lon Mabon? I think Lon came out as gay later, interestingly. Lon Mabon was a very frightened person who created a profoundly anti-gay initiative that was put on the ballot here in Oregon. And one of my friends, a psychiatrist, a woman psychiatrist, a lesbian, we were walking in the woods, and I said I was Canadian, and I just didn't want to be involved in the political process. And she stepped in front of me and said, "Robert, you will never affect a presidential election, but you could be the deciding vote on Lon Mabon." So I became a citizen, and I got to vote, and I lost on Reagan. That was a very interesting experience for me, because I hadn't ever voted before. I was in my 40s or 50s, and I'd been an expat from Canada, and I hadn't voted. But for the first time to vote and then see that landslide happen of people of very different values from mine, it was really interesting to go to the store and realize, probably 2/3 of these people here think really differently than I do. So, if we want to be free, really free, and to suffer less, the first thing we have to do is realize just how much we're suffering. And we go to great lengths to avoid realizing how suffering we are. I remember when I ran into the Dharma, I was in my 20s. I took it hook, line, and sinker for sure, but I really didn't like that suffering teaching. It's funny, the first noble truth, right? The first thing the Buddha talks about, but because I had in the back of my mind, well, I was in India, and I was coming back to graduate school in Toronto, and I was very idealistic. I had traveled for 5 years, Australia and Southeast Asia, and lots of places, Europe for a couple of years. And I had been very impressed by the catastrophe that was happening environmentally. This was 1971. Yeah, 71. And I came upon a little booklet. It was a magazine called The Ecologist, and it was about 40 pages, and it was a one article. The whole thing was a plan to save the earth, and that got me interested. And then I applied to this environmental studies program, and so I was coming back to that from India, and I was pretty confident that the world was going to change radically in a very positive direction, because good prevails. And we were going to wake up and change our global planetary environmental policies, and democracy was going to sweep the world, and so on and so on. And I was going to get back to graduate school and meet somebody really nice and have a happy relationship. And these were the idealistic fantasies that I had. And behind them, I was pretty unhappy. I was smoking weed almost every day, if not every day, and there was just lots of sadness, lots of pain, lots of loneliness, but I lived in these ideas. And that's somewhat how we're trained, right? We go to school, and I watch it with the children that I've been with through infancy to graduate school and beyond. Ram Dass speaks of the schools as the temple of the worship of the rational mind. Because we worship the rational mind and we think it will solve our problems. And it does solve some problems really radically. I mean, I've been ill enough and had surgery enough that I would not be here if it weren't for modern Western medicine. I've been taking hypertension medication since my 30s because my family there's something genetically that blood pressure just goes crazy. I would have had a heart attack or something long ago. So I really like modern science, and I like the thinking that we can do. But it doesn't seem to be leading us toward everyone being happy. In fact, it seems like a bit of a prison. And never in my, how many years I went to school, 2 graduate degrees, never did anyone say, let's take half an hour or so and stop thinking. Or let's take thinking as our meditation object so that we can see what thoughts are. It was always think more and then argue. I mentioned earlier Achan Sumedho, and I owe such a debt of gratitude to him for a bunch of things, but among them, his modeling that when giving a Dharma talk, it's okay to go silent. And when I go silent, I'm not thinking, I'm actually attempting to stop thinking. I'm going into the body and letting the thinking subside, because that then reveals what the next thing is to emerge. I've been following, sometimes more closely than is healthy for me, the political circumstances of the United States and the incredible polarization that we're involved in. And I have a side, I have a strong preference, and that is to treat everyone with great kindness and to practice generosity deeply. And to refrain from violence to the best of our ability. And to look at what's causing the suffering. And I have no idea how one could get there, but I don't think it's right that a handful of people control half to 2/3 of the wealth of the world. And I think we really ought to share better. And those people who have the tremendous control over wealth aren't that happy. In fact, they're pretty desperate. Why else would you keep trying to get more money when you have billions of dollars? So, I can fall into the left argument, which is what I've been conditioned toward. And in fact, I came across a little article. It was a CNN article the other day. I sent it to all my family. It was, what's this battle about the wall about, really? And it articulated that the wall is a great symbol. And it's practically not necessary, but it's symbolically very necessary. Because there are people, and maybe there's some here in this room, who, because of their conditioning, are frightened of being overrun and having their standard of living decreased. And there's a whole ideology, a whole set of ideas that goes with that. And unfortunately, that side tends to overlap with racial prejudice a lot. It's not 100%, of course, but and so it's a whole worldview. In fact, that's probably 10 years ago, someone wrote a book about the different fathering styles that led to people of right-leaning and left-leaning. The authoritarian father children of authoritarian fathers tended to be more right-leaning, and children of more empathic, connected, caring tended to be more left-oriented. So what I woke up with last night, here's the sadness, is the realization that none of us have chosen the side of the dichotomy that we're on. Right? We grew up in a family, we were conditioned, we went to a particular school or not, we had life experiences, and then along came these idea streams and these beliefs, and we took them and we wrapped up in them, and we became a this or a that. And because of what human consciousness does, we objectified the other, and then began to find fault with the other, and then we found cheerleaders on both sides, and both sides in the middle, and then we vilified the other side. And I've done that in marriages, in friendships, because this mind tends to do that. So I've been very, very tentative in my, I'm back. Over the years in my role leading PIMC, we have taken some political positions, in a way. With one of the Middle East wars, we went as a group. You were there, Jim, I think, down to twice. We went once to Terry Shrunk Plaza across from the Federal Building, and another time we went and sat in the square downtown. What's it called? Pioneer Courthouse Square. And we sat and walked for 3 or 4 hours, and there were a bunch of us, maybe 25 of us, and we had one person or two that were talking to people why we were sitting there in opposition to this war. Way back in the Ronald Reagan era, there were big demonstrations, and I was much younger and much less clear, but I went to a couple of them and got on the speakers list to speak, and what I wanted to say was, let's be silent for a few minutes, and let's reflect on the fact that Ronald Reagan is us, that we are the same, and that if we're angry at him and them, then we're the same problem. We are the essence of war. We are not inclusive. Now, it doesn't mean we couldn't work to get someone out of power, but to be in that place of, and it sort of feels good, and it used to feel good anyway, to be outraged or angry and oppositional, and then over time it's come to me to feel how bad that feels. I know I in my first marriage with the mother of my kids, we actually got the advice from a misguided therapist that it was really okay to have verbal fights with each other, to really just let it loose. It was in kind of a bioenergetics moment in psychotherapy. And of course, since we were doing that, we might as well have a glass or two of wine and do that. And we damaged that relationship, I would say, fatally, doing that. And because going further into you're different and I hate you for your difference isn't likely to lead to, wow, we have really different beliefs. We've been conditioned really differently, and yet I know that you're me, and I know that your well-being is as important as mine. So therefore, how can I relate to you and relate to me such that both of our well-being is cared for? How can I pull back from the polarizing and othering? And when I'm doing that externally, I believe it's a sign that I'm doing it internally. And there are parts of my experience which are banished. I have a 30-foot concrete wall up against confusion or sadness or loneliness or rage or sexual desire or something. There are parts of or grief. There's some grieving that I'm so afraid of that I create this wall against it, and then I distract myself so that I don't know, or I intoxicate myself, so that I don't feel what's really happening in me. So interesting, the things that pop up. I get very inspired by Bernie Sanders. You see my values there, and I went when he came to Portland. It was one of his first big events, and someone got up there at the beginning and kind of mobilized the crowd and got everybody angry, and my heart sank. Right? It was, oh no, this I can't be part of. Let's hate those, because that's the same problem. I don't hear that in much at all in what Bernie Sanders has said, and how we could ever pull such a thing off as to move in that direction, I don't know. But those are the values that I've been nurtured in. So, back to this, I've been very slow in terms of engaging PIMC, or encouraging to take positions on things. I know Joseph Goldstein, one of my friend mentors, and has been very clear that he says, I want anyone of any political persuasion to feel comfortable in the Dharma hall. Because the Dharma isn't about political superiority, the Dharma is about freedom. The Dharma is about realizing, how am I causing myself suffering? How am I the source of my suffering? And so then if we say, well, people of this color of, or political persuasion are welcome, and will at worst mock or feel superior to people of this persuasion, then we've lost the Dharma completely. If the core teaching is the separate self is a delusion, gathering together as a cadre of separate selves that have been brainwashed, inculcated, trained into one view to the exclusion of the other, what are we doing? So, it really does come back to love, I think. How do we come to love ourselves? How do we come to love the people near and dear to us? What is love anyway? And again, Sumedho talks about love means there's room for everything. So when we're doing our meditation, if I'm in meditation and the mood that's present is abhorrent to me, don't want this, then I have a 30-foot concrete wall. Right? Or if my meditation is struggling, I'm going to struggle to get to be with the breath so everything just shuts down so I can be calm, then I'm at war. I have the same problem. I'm trying to do survival of the fittest, where my ego, my conscious ego, is going to dominate and get rid of those unpleasant emotions. If I have more grief than I can deal with, if I've got trauma from my childhood, and I can't soften toward that grief because it would be overwhelming, and it will overwhelm the ego sometimes, then I have a Berlin Wall, or I have a southern border wall of my own inside to keep this away. So, the first thing the Buddha taught, from that colorful applique on the wall there, I purchased in Bangkok a long time ago. When we had the center. We had the center, and I knew it was for here. That's the Buddha's first sermon to his 5 former meditator friends. And in that he said there is suffering. And then, is that true for you? And if so, why not stop and feel it? Why not stop and feel how much sadness there is, or fear, or anger, or jealousy, or existential angst? Not to feel it and get mired in it and stay there, but to finally stop denying the reality of that. That our lives are utterly unstable, right? We've all lost so many friends and spouses and dogs and cats and dreams and hopes and fantasies. And those losses all have, to the degree that we're attached to the way things should be, we've suffered mightily. And in our suffering, we've done a lot of damage to other people. One of the attachments that I've been aware of in myself is I thought we were going to change the whole world, actually make it all better and everyone love each other. But with the arising of our former president, I thought, oh, this is the beginning of this. And lo and behold, 40% or more of the people in the United States were freaked out by that. And then back with a rush and a roar. And there's no predicting how it's going to go. And then I can really frighten myself when if I identify with it, that much bigger than our political problems here and in Venezuela and all over the planet is the fact that the planet is warming really fast. And that's not the world I want. I don't want it to go that way. I have a grandson. So what shall I do? One thing I have to do is titrate my dose of the information because it can overwhelm my capacity. But is there any, well, there is. There's the option of moving toward more loving and more sharing and more moral and ethical behavior and creating a happy life for myself and the people around me. Or there's another option, which is to become very unconscious one way or another, or to go to battle over it. But it seems to me that from my background now, the first order of business is to realize how much I'm suffering and why. And the why isn't because of the outer world, according to the Buddha. The why is because of the four ennobling truths. The first ennobling truth is the realization there's suffering. The second one is why. And the why is because I have a sense of self that doesn't want pain and wants pleasure and wants to become something different. These are the three cravings. This moment, I'm suffering in this moment. The cold was a good example of it here. Who suffered because of the cold? Anybody? A little bit? There must have been somebody. A little bit, come on now. Yeah, it's like, and it wasn't that cold, but it was unpleasant and unexpected. And some of us suffer a lot more. Some of us have Raynaud syndrome. We get cold really easily. But so, with this training, this teaching from the Buddha, we pull back from our knee-jerk reaction, I'm suffering because they're doing that. Or I'm suffering because the world is unfolding like this. And we take a very radically different perspective, which is, I'm going to turn inside and see how it's this mind that causes the suffering. The pain exists, but the suffering is something that this mind does because of its attachments to things being a certain way. And that's a lot to say, and I for some of you, they'll be really quite new, and I encourage you, don't believe it, but pause long enough to feel the suffering and to develop a mind that can contemplate itself, which is different from meditating so I get concentrated into bliss. That's helpful. It's a great developmental stage, but more potent is, I'm going to watch this mind. I'm going to cultivate a mind that observes itself really carefully. And then with that, we start discovering that there are moments when the circumstances remain the same and the suffering is absent. That the Buddha called that nirvana. Nirvanic happiness. It's not the mood happiness. It's the falling away of the demand for things to be different. And it's also the falling away of this sense of I, me, mine. And with that, there's the other vocabulary for that is when it's not so strong, I, me, mine, it can be, oh, it's us. It's you. Your needs are as important to me as mine. And that's then love and compassion. The noble truths are called the noble truths because we become ennobled. When I'm no longer thrashing around, I certainly haven't arrived, but the amount of thrashing around and harming of other people that I do at this stage in my life is a lot less than it was 20, 30 years ago. Because, and I'm sure this is true for many or most of us, maybe all of us in this room, because I can tolerate discomfort better. I can tolerate disappointment, and when things, tempting fate by saying this, but when things don't go the way I want, I'll have that initial reaction, but then I'll pause and realize, oh, isn't that interesting? Look at that. Yeah, that election didn't turn out the way I wanted. Or, oh, these circumstances of my children, this is not the way I wanted it. Or, oh, my health, oh, right. This body's getting kind of stiff. No matter how much yoga I do, my hips are stiff. Getting out of the car. A couple of days ago, I was getting out of the car, and there's kind of a little bit struggle, and I thought, good God, this is an old man getting out of a car. I'm not springing out of the car like I did before. And then, 2 or 3 or 4 steps, and oh good, it's working again. But it's disappointing. It's disappointing, and it's kind of heartwarming in a way. All right. This is how it is to grow older in this way. So the 4 ennobling truths, I invite you to become very conversant with them and to use them. There's an equation. Whenever you're suffering, and you pause and you notice it. And one way to look at that is when you're angry at someone or angry at something, pause. What's happening behind that? You're always hurting. So the degree of suffering varies. Suffering varies directly with the amount of attachment to things being a certain way. Fred Luskin, in that great book, Forgive for Good, proposed that we suffer because of our unenforceable rules. My life shouldn't be like this. My children's life shouldn't be like that. The life of the nation shouldn't be like that. The circumstance of the planet shouldn't be like that. Which doesn't mean we don't act. It's just that we act with much more love, and when it doesn't go our way, we can still be pretty happy. Not happy mood, but happy, we can be wisely happy. So I've been in debate. I think I will. I want to sing a song. It's been a song very close to my heart for several years. And I'm always a little reticent, There's real musicians in the room. But then, what's a real musician except someone who tries their best to make a song? So, let me just check this. Turn it down a bit. Oh, there it is. You see it? There. I'm a teenager again. Oh man, would I not want to do that again? I hope that Buddhist idea about rebirth isn't true. I'm going to sing the last line first. I have no enemies. I have no enemies. I have no enemies. I have no enemies. Could skip the song. That's the message. When my body won't hold me anymore, and it finally lets me free, will I be ready? When my feet won't walk another mile, and my lips give their last kiss goodbye, will my hands be steady? When I lay down my fears, my hopes and my doubts, the rings on my fingers and the keys to my house, with no hard feelings. When the sun hangs, I've lost my place low in the west, and the light in my chest won't be kept held at bay any longer. When the jealousy fades away, and it's ash and dust for cash and lust, and it's just hallelujah, and love in the thoughts, and love in the words, and love in the songs they sing in the Dharma Hall, and no hard feelings. Imagine that, no hard feelings. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, with so much to have and hold. When my body won't hold me anymore, and it finally lets me free, where will I go? Will the trade winds take me south, through Georgia grain, or tropical rain, or snow from the heavens? Will I join with the ocean blue, or run into the Savior true, and shake hands laughing, and walk through the night straight to the light, holding the love I've known in my life, with no hard feelings. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, with so much to have and hold. Under the curving sky, I'm finally learning why It matters for me and you to say it and mean it too. For life and its loveliness and all of its ugliness, good as it's been to me. Won't you join me? I have no enemies. 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 Thank you to the Avett brothers for that. So what if we had no enemies? What if we didn't even have ourselves as an enemy? So I think that's our task, isn't it? To become so loving, so able to accept ourselves as we are, that even the person or persons that we create the most powerful enemy images of, if we pause, we can see them as frightened, hurt, desperate human beings. Right? Think of that. Who is your chosen evil person in the world? What about taking the task of learning to love that person? Right? To see how he is really just a person who's gotten caught on a wave, who believes things that are different from yours, but they believe them for good reasons, their own experience. And I think it's from there that we can then start to have conversations with people. So I want to thank the Buddha. Thank you, Lord Buddha. And Ruth, and to all of you for coming today and for practicing and for encouraging me to play this role. Because it is just a role, right? We're just us. So what I'd like to have now is an hour or two to break into small groups and connect, but we don't. But we do have an opportunity to come next door and have some tea and coffee and discuss whatever it is that comes up. So, guess let me just plant this one more seed from announcements. I think it's the third Saturday of February. I'll be conducting a really potent day of practice. It's called Remembering Death. And it's pulling that which we deny out of the closet and bringing it right in front of ourselves, because that's the great leveler, right? That we're all just here for a few eye blinks. And why not love each other? So please, let's make a big circle. I think I hear the kids bumbling around in the chute. Thank you to those of you that are joining us on the net today. Oh. Yeah. KB has asked to offer a request, and I'm saying yes.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to ask you if you would like to participate in something very, very important. February 6th, there is a lobby day in Salem, Oregon. There's going to be environmental policy passed in this state that is going to be a model for every state in the country. We're about to do something really important here. And if you want to spend one day doing something for the environment, it's to come on February 6th. You can go to a site called Renew Oregon, reneworegon.org. You can either spend the whole day or just come for the rally. We need an overwhelming force. We have 600 people, we need 1,000 between 12 and 1. If you'd like to come, you would be welcome. It'll be a wonderful experience, and you'll be doing something that you're going to be able to tell your grandkids you were there. Thank you.
Hi. Did you have fun today? Yeah. How about you? Wow. May I hold your hand? Is that okay? Can I hold your hand? Or a toe? Or your mom's shoulder? Can I hold your shoulder? Please hold hands if you wish, and can do so peacefully. So, dear friends, let's take a moment to look around at ourselves in our many forms. Imagine that each one of us has sprung out of the earth and gets to dance for a while. So giving the hand on your right a little squeeze and a wish, what would your wish be for this person? If you could wish anything. And the person on your left. It's so easy for us to think kind thoughts for each other. It's potentiated by being able to see what's going on in our minds very clearly. And let's extend this wish outwards to all beings in this city, and in this country, and all over the world. To those beings who have extraordinary wealth and power, and those who are in abject poverty. To those of us who fly in the sky and burrow in the ground and live in the trees and under the ground. Who swim in the oceans and do everything else that we humans and other beings do. May we all remember our true great nature. Well, who's going to be singing? I think you're excited. Here we go. All right.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy.
May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. Beautiful. Well, let's all create a wish. What would if you were in charge of creating a wish in your own consciousness, what would it be today in this moment? It can be for yourself, for others, for all beings. All right, are we ready? Let's all take in a giant deep breath. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yay! We did it. Oops. Yay. So do please come back and have some goodies and some connection with each other, and I am very grateful for your presence here today. Thanks. Yeah. It's a good thing.
Thank you so much, Robert.
You're most welcome.
Really got me here.
Oh,
Again.
good. Oh,
Thank
good.
you.